Alright, looking at this closely, this is the mechanism I made up. Right now it's got a very skinny little drill bit going through it to hold it on the hinge. This is the apparatus for the mouth. Now I made this thing up out of aluminum. I bought some aluminum stock and I made this up. And I'm going to show you how it goes in here. Okay, I don't know if it's all in camera or not. This is the back end, obviously. This goes in like this. Okay. Now, over here, I cut this opening bigger because this is not going to be the finished product. This is not going to be the actual mouth. This is going to come out like this. Now, you see how far out that is? You're saying, well, why am I making it out that far? Well, the simple reason is there's going to be a jaw here. The jaw is going to come out. And there's going to be another, probably not metal, going around here. That's what these tabs are for, so I can secure it to it. So this thing will be going up and down like this. There'll be a spring on the back of this, holding this down to this area here. This whole thing fits right in, down like that. So as you're looking at the front of it, this is how it's going to be working, like this. See, it'll be down in here. Right now there's no pins in there holding it together. But there will be, and then it'll line up properly. As you can see here. See how much movement that is? That's all you need, really. Now, over here, I'll be building, like I say, there'll be a chin here coming out, there'll be a nose. This face will come out more, but the sides will come out more, too. There'll be a chin here. Now, he's going to have a beard, so I can cover up a lot of this stuff here. Now, I can't secure this in place until I get all this made up. And in order to put the pins in, which are going to be simply screws in the side here, I got to make a little hole here and a little hole here to put a screwdriver through to tighten up the screws. It's all going to get covered with fabric anyway, so once this is all done and all made in here, and the spring in the back and everything, which will be connected to the bottom of this here, right to this pin here. Once it's all together, it gets siliconed in, and that's it. It's a done deal, so I got to do it right the first time. I simply went to the hardware store and bought 3 foot of this aluminum. It's a lot easier to work with. It'll also, there's enough pieces here to make the mechanism for the eye and so forth. A lot of these things on the internet are telling you how to make these things. There's not too many places out there that show you how to make it. They're telling you use brass. Now, why the hell should I use brass? That's expensive, and aluminum is just as good. I mean, you don't need any real strength there. Aluminum is just fine. You know. May not look like very much at all right now, but there's a lot of work to be done yet on it. Now, inside here, if you're looking where my thumb is, there'll be a little piece in there that will hook for a rope. A little string that'll come down here, come out where my thumb is, come down on the outside of this bar, this tube rather, I should say, come down here, and it'll be a mechanism of some sort that I'll have to rig up so I can operate the jaw. Now, all this will be covered anyways. This neck isn't going to be this skinny. It's going to be a lot fatter, so it'll hide the string and everything that's inside there. I'll probably run the string in a piece of, I don't know, a piece of pipe or something. I don't know. Okay. I drilled a hole here, and I drilled a hole here. There's going to be a little screw going across here. That's going to be for the string to attach to pull the jaw open. Then there'll be a spring on the other end, on the back end here, that'll always keep the jaw closed like this. There's not going to be a lot of movement here. This is a little more movement than it actually is going to be, because this thing here, the bracket that holds this pipe onto the wood, takes up all but a 1/4 inch of this space here, which I purposely left that way so that there'll be a little movement. It doesn't have to be much, just enough. So overall, the jaw is going to be moving up and down a good inch. So it'll definitely be normal. It'll look normal. In other words, you'll be able to see the mouth move. I decided to put a small thin screw right through here in the middle. I wasn't going to do that because I figured it might interfere with the rod that's going to be going up the middle of that pipe. But it really isn't. It's going to be a very thin rod, and that's going to be to turn the eyes. So it'll be a thin piece of maybe coat hanger or something. I'll find something to put down there, and it'll come out down here somewhere. I just got to figure out how to turn it. It could come out the bottom, and then I could put a little loop on the end to put my thumb in there and make it go back and forth and turn it that way. We'll see yet. But we got a lot of work to do before I can get to that point. Well, this is the mechanism I got installed here. Partially. I put a screw through, a long skinny screw, and I couldn't get a nut to fit on the left side over there, so I put a little dab of silicone rubber in there. It's not fully cured yet. The nut that you see coming out of the back of this thing will go on that spring that you see down there. But the problem is this thing sits so low that it bangs and it's in the way. So what I got to do is I got to take and cut this part out and bring this down lower and bring this spring down lower. And also to give clearance for the back of this thing here. As you can see, it moves. But it's going to be very hard to do anything with this until I can get this part opened up here. The more cuts I make into this, the weaker this structure is going to be. So we're going to have to be very careful with that. And then where you see the hole right where my thumb is, there's a hole here and there's a hole there in the aluminum. There's a screw going to go across there, or a bar or something, and the string that'll come down will come out of here and go down. So there's a lot of work to be done on this yet, and I'm going to let that silicone set up in there. I'm not going to play around with this until the silicone sets up, and then once I do that, then I can tighten all the hardware and everything and get this thing to work better. Right now it's not lined up at all, so it will be when I get done with it. I added a little silicone to the top of this here because it was banging, clanging against the bracket here. Right now I got it taped on the front so it can't move very much, so it wouldn't touch the silicone. I put this on yesterday so it had a good chance to dry. I also opened up more of the back so I can attach a spring here, and I'm going to have to make a hole down here so I have the spring in here. And when this is all done, I'll just close this up, and then I'll just tape this all up, close this up like this, and I might open up a little more up here so I can get the work on, in other words, the back that I already cut out of here will not be used, and I'll have another back for this. Not a problem. In addition, I went to the plumbing section in Home Depot and bought one of these little plastic water lines, and that's going to go on the front. This is the back of it, but this is going to go on the front. So the string that's going to go down through here will control the mouth, and it'll be taped up against the front of the neck. If you look at this here, I got some nylon rope. Fits fairly snug in there. Definitely is not going to break. That's going to go in this tube. And it'll be controlled down at the end of the head stick. And this part will be tied up to the bottom of the jaw and will not be visible from the front because there's going to be more stuff added in the mouth area. As you can see, I got it all siliconed in there. I siliconed it almost 24 hours ago, so I can do some work in there now without worrying about it falling apart. Also, you probably noticed there's a hole here and there's a hole here. And those are just extra holes. This is where the eye bar will come through, the rod. But there's a hole here and a hole here on either side of it. I had to drill wherever it wasn't in the way of this bracket here. And that's just extra holes in case I need to make modifications or add something else to this. One thing I failed to mention, you probably noticed that this board is sitting about an inch or so higher. So I won't have to cut this out. All I have to do is just bring the spring either back into the same location because I had removed it, or I could bring the spring down lower, make a little incision here and bring it down lower. But I raised the board up, which means now I also open the mouth up larger so that there's more throw on this. I can't really demonstrate. I'm holding the camera, but you can probably see that. Anyways, this is all going to be covered up with fabric or something anyways, and I'd like to be able to get some kind of a flesh-colored rubber, but I doubt I'll be able to get it. And then I can make some actual lips that would actually be moving. That would be cool. But anyways, I won't have to do much other than to just open this up, you know, bring this flap down that you see here, that I cut back out, bring it down and attach the spring on there and make sure that the mechanism works good. And then on the front, I'm going to have the tube coming down, the plastic pipe that I showed you, coming down out of here with the rope going, nylon rope going through it. And I have to just figure out what kind of a trigger mechanism I can apply down here to operate this jaw right here. Alright, what I did is I cut a hole here. And I'm going to put the spring down here because I need more throw. I drilled a little hole here and I'm going to have a screw in the end of the spring here, as you can see. It's going to come up in here, come up through here, and it's going to hook on to this little stud coming out over here. Looking at the front side, you can see that I put the bar, it's still got silicone on it. And that's where the rope is going to go. And the rope is going to go down through here, through a quarter-inch water line, supply line. It'll go down here, it'll be taped to the stock, and then it'll exit out into here with a mechanism to operate the jaw here. I couldn't put a nut on there. It wasn't possible to get a nut on there without cutting big holes in the side in order to get my fingers in there or even a wrench in there. So I figured I'd just silicone it because that's not going to move. That's just going to hold the quarter-inch rope that's going to be coming down through here. So what I'm going to do now is to put that spring in. Okay. Right now it's a nice cool day. When it gets hot and humid, I don't work on it anymore until it gets cooled down. We have a beautiful day today. So what I'm going to do, we got to file down a little here so that the spring will not rub up against there. I want enough clearance. Now, when all this is in, then I'm going to take some plastic and just build this up to cover up the spring and then build up the neck area. Same way with here. The jaw comes down here. This will be all closed in right to here. I just need working area because there's going to be more material here to, you know, be added, including the jaw and everything else that's got to go in here. You have to So the mechanisms are the most important. We want to make sure that they are reliable. So what I'm going to do now is to file this out a little bit. Got to bring the spring up into this area here. I don't know if I'm in camera or not here. That's the problem when you're doing things by yourself, and I find myself way out of view here. Alright. As you can probably see. And the spring is not rubbing on anything. But this spring will have to be protected. I can't just take tape and build this up. It'll bind the spring. So I got to make a little cover out of plastic and then cover it up after I secure this other end here. Right. Now you see this cushion here, you don't hear the banging. You hear the banging up here, but that's not a problem because that'll all be straightened out. But you can see the spring, how it operates. And this will be covered up. Alright, it may not be the most beautiful job, but I put a little silicone on that nut there to keep the nut from unwinding. It's double nutted, but only single nutted on the spring, because that's all the room I had. So now she should work pretty well. So I gotta let this set up, and I'll be working on other parts of it. Well, I never claimed to be a model maker or whatever you want to call it, but you can see I got a clamp in there, and this stuff is stainless, so it's virtually impossible to cut off. So I just bent it over. Just holds the I took a lighter and melted the end of the nylon 1/4 inch rope, so that'll activate like this. See how this goes. Now what I got to do is to feed it up through this tube here. You see this tube here? That tube is going to be going up in there about 1/4 inch, and it'll be taped to the bottom of the neck, like so. This will all be taped in. I just have to figure out some kind of a mechanism, because I don't want to be pulling it down like this. This is the hardest part right now, trying to figure out what I'm going to do there. I temporarily siliconed it. Well, actually, I permanently siliconed it and held this down temporarily with a piece of tape. So this will make very sure that this thing does not come off. Okay, you see where this spring is here? Well, I need to cover that up so that it's protected. So I took a piece of water bottle, put some duct tape on it, and we're going to use this as a cover just to keep the spring from being exposed. And also, when I cover this with the material and more tape and so forth, it's not going to get pressed up against it. It'll keep it away. So I'm going to put that on. I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Alright, it's just one piece of tape right now on there, but there's going to be masking tape that's going to be put over that, and there's got to be more tape going into this area. Now this silicone is just about set up in here in the front, But I'm going to let it sit overnight because it's only been there for a few hours. And then I can release this tape down the bottom here that's holding the rope tight and keeping the jaw open. The jaw is not completely open, but it keeps it enough pressure on the rope so that it stays good in here. Anyways, there's a lot more building up to do. This don't look too strong now, but once I get a lot of tape on here, it'll be quite good. And this little tab here will just be trimmed off. I just bent that up so it was out of the way of the spring. And then this flap here will go back when I'm finished with everything in on the inside here. I got a long way to go, but there's a lot of wrinkles in this because it's hard to get this tape on here without wrinkling it in these areas. But that's okay because this is going to be an old man, Uncle Dorkel, as I said. So Uncle Dorkel's going to have a lot of wrinkles, but that's okay. The only thing I want good and shiny and smooth is his top of his bald head, which is, you know, I got to cut off some of this top here and put a round dome on here. That I want nice and shiny, a chrome dome on this guy. But his neck can be wrinkled, I don't care. There's a lot more to do yet. You can see that I put the masking tape over the duct tape. The masking tape seems to be a lot better. It seems to stick better. But I used the duct tape for the primary coat, as you want to call it that, layer. And then, you know, continue on with the masking tape. Now in the back, of course, I'll close this up when I'm ready, and I'll bring a piece up to the plywood up here when I'm ready for that. That piece up here, it'll go to there. But we got a lot more work, so I've got to get going on this.